Born in 1932 in the city of San Francisco, Dian Fossey loved animals from an early age. So when she was given an opportunity by Dr. Louis Leakey to study them, she eagerly accepted. Fossey is famous for her works with gorillas in the mountains of Rwanda. In her life's work, she broke barriers in many important ways. Firstly, Fossey's method was more successful than those of the researchers before her. She was the first person to come into peaceful contact with a gorilla. The barrier of getting close enough to study gorillas was broken thanks to her. Fossey also broke a barrier of understanding by raising awareness of the mountain gorilla's endangered status. But where did this international hero begin? Dian Fossey was born in San Francisco in 1932 at the time of the Great Depression. She loved animals from a young age, but at first she was unsure what she wanted to do for a career. She started with a business degree to satisfy her parents, but switched over to veterinary classes. Then finally graduated college with a degree in occupational therapy. In Africa for her first time, she met the famed primatologist Louis Leakey and shares her dream of working with gorillas with him. A while later, Fossey was back in America working off the loan she took for the trip to Africa. In 1966, Dian Fossey attends a lecture by Louis Leakey, who was in her area on tour. After the lecture, Louis Leakey offers her a long-time job in Africa working with gorillas, which Fossey happily accepts. She flies out to Africa and begins her obsessing work of studying and protecting gorillas. The first mountain gorillas were discovered by German explorer Captain Robert von Behrens. After von Behrens brought the body of one of the monstrous-looking beasts back, museums all over wanted to find and kill the best specimens. The first person to start conserving mountain gorillas was Carl Ackley. But it wasn't until Louis Leakey got George Schaller and then Dian Fossey to study them that the real conservation began. Dian Fossey studied the mountain gorillas in a very peculiar fashion, one that hadn't been seen before.
I've gotten them accustomed to me by aping them, and they are fascinated by my facial grimaces and other actions that I wouldn't be caught dead doing in front of anyone. I feel like a complete fool, but this technique seems to be working.
She was the first human to come into peaceful contact with the mountain gorilla, proving how successful her new method was. Her 18 years of research in Rwanda helped us to understand the way that gorillas interacted and behaved, and how similar they were to humans. She believed in active conservation, which meant that she had to get close to the gorillas in order to protect them from poachers. Poachers were a big problem for gorillas, with their numbers decreasing drastically within just a few years before Fossey arrived.
For years, poachers targeted mountain gorillas to make fast money, selling infant gorillas to zoos, or the hands and the heads of adults as trophies to wealthy tourists. This environment is as dangerous to mountain gorillas as it is uncomfortable and exhausting for humans. But there are some who endure it nonetheless.
She dedicated her life to fighting off poachers, and the barrier preventing mountain gorillas from thriving was broken thanks to her efforts. Some ways Dian took action to protect the gorillas were wearing masks, burning snares, spray painting cattle to discourage poachers from coming back to the park, and taking on the poachers directly. Her conservation efforts and her written works found her a celebrity, which raised awareness about the gorilla's conditions. Dr. Jane Goodall, in a foreword for the book No One Loved Gorillas More, explains the topic further. She says, "How fortunate for the world that Bob Campbell and other photographers worked with her so that she could share her wealth of knowledge and passion with a wide audience around the world. And fortunate too that the National Geographic Society published her adventures, for she so much wanted to raise awareness. Now gorillas are thriving thanks to her efforts. On December 26, in 1985, Dian Fossey was killed in a machete attack which was probably linked to her anti-poaching works. But she left behind an impressive legacy. Because of her conservation efforts, the mountain gorilla's population is now stable. A movie called Gorillas in the Mist was created off her efforts, continuing to raise awareness even after her tragic death. The mountain gorillas of the Rwandan Misted Mountains are part of Dian Fossey's legacy, for if she had not been there to step up to research and protect the creatures, they wouldn't be here today. The other part of Dian Fossey's legacy was the Gorilla Fund. The Gorilla Fund was first set up in 1967 as the few tenths of the Karasoke research site that Dian Fossey ran, called the Digit Fund, but it grew into one of the longest ongoing studies of any primate yet. The Gorilla Fund continues the work that Dian Fossey started. From the Explorers and Conservationists of the Virunga Volcanoes pamphlet, Tara Stowinski, president of the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, can explain more. She says, even though she died in 1985, her work has not only continued, but greatly expanded since then, carried out today by the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund International. The Karasoke Research Center today is a world-renowned center for gorilla protection and research, with its 100-plus award-winning gorilla trackers protecting the gorillas every day, anti-poaching teams patrolling the forest, and scientists undertaking numerous studies that help us learn more about the gorillas and the best conservation methods. Dian Fossey was a pioneer in her field, and if it were not for her, the mountain gorillas might have gone extinct. Her active conservation and raising awareness brought the species back from the verge of extinction. Praveen Momen, founder of the Volcano Safaris, can expand on the topic. He appeared on Turkish radio television World in 2015 to talk about Dian Fossey. Here he is now.
I think her work was seminal. It put on the map the forgotten apes in these faraway forests on the borders of Rwanda, Uganda, and the DRC. And why was it seminal? I think without her highlighting the plight of these gorillas, which, as you know, are very closely related to human beings. We share about 98% of our DNA with them. It's very questionable whether they would have survived. In 1960, there were under 500 gorillas. By 1980, around the time she was murdered, there were about 250. Today, mercifully, there are about 900. So the overall trend is good. It's strong. The gorillas are, the population is stable.
In conclusion, Dian Fossey was a researcher who was dedicated to making the world a better place for the mountain gorilla. She also broke many barriers in her life. Fossey's method of studying gorillas was very successful, and she broke barriers of understanding for both researchers to come after her and for the public. By fighting off poachers, she became a celebrity and raised awareness about the gorilla's declining population. Dian Fossey contributed her life towards conservation efforts, and the world will forever be grateful for her works and lasting legacy.